Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could be here because we've got a very special freeze-dried episode for you today. Today's video is part of a larger collaboration in a series called Freeze-Dried February. This is where all sorts of YouTubers get together making videos showing you how to freeze-dry different food items, giving you their tips and tricks, food preservation, long-term food storage, and today's video is my contribution to that series. I'm going to put a link in the description box below to the playlist for this collaborative effort, and it's being hosted over at the YouTube channel, The Inquisitive Farm Wife. And so if you're into food preservation, freeze drying, maybe you have a freeze dryer, maybe you're thinking about getting a freeze dryer, be sure to go check out her YouTube channel. She's got the playlist. It's absolutely amazing. It's a great resource. And just so you know, Harvest Right will be giving away one freeze dryer to one lucky winner on March the 1st. I'll be sure to put the details in the description box below. Let's get into the topic of today's freeze-dried video. We've been freeze drying food now for about 2.5 years. We started a freeze drying business. I have 5 units, 4 different sizes, and 3 different brands. And so if you have any questions about freeze drying, be sure to drop them in the comment section below. One of my favorite things to freeze dry is fruit, so that we could turn it into fruit powder. And honestly, it doesn't matter the fruit that you use. In today's video, I'm going to share with you everything that we've learned from beginning to end. And you're going to want to stick around to the very end of this video because there's a couple things you're going to want to be aware of when dealing with fruit powder. This is dragon fruit. I love dragon fruit. And so let's get started.
All right, first thing we got to do, obviously, is get our hands on some fruit. Doesn't matter the kind of fruit that you use. Matter of fact, you can even do this with vegetables and herbs if you want to have a powder. And you just want to prepare it for the freeze dryer. So clean it off. In this case, I'm removing the crown from the strawberry. If you don't want the peel as part of your fruit powder, just remove it. I'm doing that with the dragon fruit here. A couple different cool varieties. This is a dragon fruit variety called Physical Graffiti. The one you just saw a minute ago was a Costa Ricensis. And once you have your fruit prepared, we're just going to blend it up. We're going to turn this into a fruit puree. I found that this is the best way to maximize the space you have in your freeze dryer. Now that everything's blended, we're going to pour that onto our freeze dryer tray. And I've done this with and without a lining. And it's actually a little bit easier if you happen to have a lining, but either way totally works. There's our strawberry. Smells amazing. Fill it up as much as you can, get it right to the top, and once it's full, we're going to stick this into our freezer. Now, I happen to have a blast chiller, which will get this down to negative 20 degrees pretty quick, and so we're going to stick this into our blast chiller while we set up our freeze dryers. For the Harvest Right, we're going to customize the settings, and you can leave the initial freeze at negative 10 or negative 20. That's fine. The dry temp is 125, and that's okay. Extra dry time, we're going to increase that to 12 hours. We don't need to adjust the freeze time because our food is going in there already frozen. Let's hit save and then start. The machine will take care of the rest. For the Stay Fresh, we're going to hit the freeze drying option. We're going to click the frozen food button, and then we're going to hit the setting option. The shelf temperature is activated, and we want that setting to be negative 10. You can make it negative 20 if you want, but negative 10 is sufficient. As far as the drying parameters, we're not going to touch the pressure. Our maximum shelf temperature is good at 120, and then we're going to increase the final dry hours to 18. Let's hit back and hit start. And now the unit is going to start cooling down. If you happen to have a blue Alpine freeze dryer, then you go to the menu option, hit recipes, and they actually happen to have a preset called fruit. You can click the fruit button, and it's going to give you a freeze time of 9 hours, 24 hours dry time, and a dry temperature of 115. And those parameters are perfectly fine for freeze drying fruit. Our fruit is now frozen. This gets down to about negative 20 in about an hour and a half, which is relatively quick. Freeze dryers do great at drying, but they aren't very good at freezing. So if you can, pre-freeze your food. It will radically reduce the amount of time that your freeze dryer is in the freezing mode. Strawberry puree going in. We just finished loading up our Stay Fresh with our pureed lime. And on the Stay Fresh, I want you to notice something. Remember, our target shelf temperature was negative 10. It's currently at negative 11, which means we've already hit our target. As soon as I press food in chamber, it's going to start drying. And notice only 2 hours and 22 minutes have passed, which is very quick for the freezing cycle. And now we're drying. This is going to do its thing for the next day or day and a half. It really just depends on how much moisture is in your food. And then when it's finished, it should be completely dry. This is our lime. This is dragon fruit. Little strawberry coming out. And when it's done, you want to make sure it's dry. I like to do a temperature check. As long as I'm reading over 100 degrees, I'm fine. What I'm looking for is any cold zones. If you have a cold zone, that generally means there's still moisture in there. and then you want to pop it back in your freeze dryer and let it freeze dry for another few hours. But it looks like we're fine. Our next step is to take our fruit sheet and turn it into powder. And if you live in a very humid environment like I do, you want to kind of work quick because it will start to reabsorb some of the moisture in the air and it'll turn it soft, which is definitely not what you want. You can crunch this up with your hands, but if you want a very fine, consistent powder, I found the easiest way to do that is in a blender. So we're going to load up our blender. And one thing you might want to do is put a little saran wrap under the lid like you see right here. If you don't, that fruit powder is going to get all on the lid, on the inside of it, and it'll start to cake up and it'll become a waste. So easiest way to do it, put a little saran wrap under the lid and then blend it up. I like to start with a couple pulses first and then turn it to high for 5 or 10 seconds. You don't want to blend it too long because the heat that's generated from the blending itself will cause the fruit powder to clump up and it'll start to stick to itself. So you definitely don't want to do that. This is our Physical Graffiti Dragon Fruit Powder. Absolutely amazing. Let me show you the lid from the blender. This is definitely why it's advantageous to put a little cling film on it so that you can keep your blender lid clean, and then anything that's on this piece right here either comes right off, it brushes right off. Right now there's barely any on it, so it's just not even worth keeping. And there you have it. Now the final step comes down to storage. We're going to put a moisture absorber in a mason jar, then we're going to fill it up with our fruit powder. I'm using a food funnel. This is from freezedryingsupplies.com. I'll put a link in the description box if you need one, but this is a great way to get your food into your Mylar bag, your, in this case, jar, without making a huge mess. We're going to put another moisture absorber right on top and then give it a close. If you happen to have a chamber vacuum sealer, you could stick the mason jar in the chamber vac and that will seal it up no problem. If you don't have a chamber vacuum sealer, this vacuum sealer made for mason jars is a great alternative. It can do both the wide mouth and the small mouth jars and just takes a few seconds. Once it's completely done, you can remove it. And notice you've got a beautiful seal right there on the lid. Finish by putting the ring on, and then you can just store this in a cool, dark place. Another option is a vacuum seal bag, or if you want something a little more long-term storage, a Mylar bag works great as well. Right here, we have a sampler pack of 3 different varieties of our dragon fruit powder. Absolutely amazing. Each one tastes uniquely different. I think we should make like a cheesecake or something. Let me show you some of the other ones that we've got. This is strawberry powder. Absolutely amazing. Love the strawberry powder. Tastes like a candy almost. And this is pineapple. We took really ripe pineapple, so perfectly sweet, great acidity, and that's what the powder looks like. And this is banana. The better quality your fruit is, the better your fruit powder is going to taste, obviously, but that's what banana looks like. And then this one is papaya, but we also have apple and blueberry and mango and cherry and grape and all these other ones. This one is the lime that we did in this video.
Our fruit powders are finished, and all we're going to do is store this in a cool, dark place. And in this state, it'll last for years. If you want something a little more long-term, like 15, 20, 25 years, put it in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber, seal it up, and you're good to go. One thing that I do to help maintain the fruit powder's freshness is every time I open it, use a little, and then close it back, I like to re-vacuum seal it, and that just keeps everything nice and fresh. Absolutely perfect. Great places to use fruit powder are milkshakes, smoothies, waffles, pancakes. Add it to desserts like cheesecake. You can even flavor your yogurt with it. If you're making bread or cookies, you can certainly add some of these fruit powders to the recipe and give it a nice fruity flavor. I'll tell you one idea that I'm working on for these fruit powders for our freeze-dried business. So the idea here is to make fruit powder blends. So we may take strawberry, banana, cherry, or soursop, mango, and passion fruit, or lime, pineapple, and papaya, right? Whatever the combination is. We'll then take kefir milk, so a fermented milk, freeze dry that and turn that into a powder and mix it all together. And the product is basically a little packet that the customer can cut open. So it's all powders. It'll be in a Mylar bag and they'll just pour it into their blender with a designated amount of water, 1 or 2 cups. And all they got to do is blend it up. And in less than 15 seconds, they'll have an absolutely amazing, all-natural, fermented fruit smoothie that will come in a variety of flavors. They just pick the flavor that they like. And that brings me to one final thought. If you're going to be making freeze-dried fruit powder like we did in this video, remember that this is ultra concentrated. This pint of papaya powder is 2 huge papaya. And so when you use it in a recipe, you can very easily overwhelm the recipe. Start small, see how you like it, and then go from there. All right, guys, freeze-dried fruit powder, very cool ingredient to have on hand. If you want any information on the freeze dryers that we used in today's video, I'll put a link to all 3 in the description box below. You can check each one of them out. And if you have any questions about each one of those units or about the process of freeze drying in general, by all means, leave it in the comment section below and I'll see if I can help out. Big thanks goes out to the YouTube channel, The Inquisitive Farm Wife, for putting together this freeze-dried February series. I'll put a link in the description box below to her channel. You'll find a playlist of all the videos from the people who contributed to freeze-dried February on her channel. And I believe the freeze dryer that Harvest Right is going to be giving away will be announced on her channel as well. So definitely give it a check. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel and you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.